American National Museum. So I'm going to start with a few logistical notes for both here in person, and then we also do have a virtual audience online as well. And then we'll get into the program. I just want to let the folks know here in the audience, please note the emergency exits. They're illuminated around the auditorium. In case of emergency, please do exit via the stairs and not the elevator. Restrooms are available up on the second floor, accessible via the stairs and the elevator. We ask that you do not eat or drink inside the auditorium. With your sticker today, you are also welcome to visit our galleries, which close. We close our doors last admission at 4:30. We're open till 5. Please come visit. Of course, I know there's a lot of students in the audience today. There's discounts for students if you want to come back another day as well. We have our new exhibition, BeHere 1942, as well as Bible and Sutra on display. And we always have our core exhibition, Common Ground, and the Lawson Sakai, AI available in the pavilion side. For those online, please do let us know where you're calling in from in the Zoom chat. And you can ask your questions of our speakers later on today via the Zoom Q&A feature or the chat feature. For those in the audience here in person, we will have a phone number on the screen that you can text your questions to, and we can pass those on to our moderator today. So trying out a few bit new things. And if you have any questions throughout, myself or my colleague Elizabeth will be in the lobby, and we can help you out with any questions. So with that, I am also here to give a thanks on behalf of our president and CEO, Ann Burroughs, who unfortunately could not join us here today, but sends her regards. This is a really exciting exhibition for us and all the partnerships that it brings with it. And I also want to start off at the top of this program acknowledging the recent passing of our Board of Trustees Chair, Norman Y. Mineta, who was a huge inspiration to all of us here at JANM, and just leaves a legacy behind that we're so grateful for. So I hope that you'll join me in a moment of honoring Norman Mineta. Thank you. So with that, I want to thank our co-presenters of this exhibition and this program today, the Yanai Initiative at UCLA and Waseda University in Tokyo. And this exhibition is also sponsored by the Yanai Initiative for Globalizing Japanese Humanities at UCLA and Waseda University, Tokyo, with generous support from the National Trust for Historic Preservation's Telling the Full History Preservation Fund. Additional support is provided by the UCLA Arts Initiative, the Japan Foundation, Asahi Shimbun Foundation, and the Rafu Shimpo. So a huge thank you to all of them today. And so with that, I'm so grateful that you all are here and joining us. And I'm going to pass it over to Professor Michael Emrich from UCLA to begin the program with a few remarks.
Thank you so much. I won't actually make any remarks. I'm just going to introduce the speakers. But yeah, my name is Michael Emrich. I teach Japanese literature at UCLA in the Department of Asian Languages and Cultures. Also teach other things like anime. I know there are a number of students here from the anime class I'm teaching right now. And I direct the Yanai Initiative for Globalizing Japanese Humanities at both UCLA and Waseda University in Tokyo, which co-presented this, or is co-presenting this wonderful exhibit, BeHere 1942, A New Lens on the Japanese American Incarceration. Our two speakers today, or participants in this discussion, are the artist behind BeHere 1942, Masaki Fujihata, first, and then also Karen Tei Yamashita. Masaki Fujihata is a world-renowned new media artist, among the first to explore the potential of computers as an artistic medium, and a pioneering figure in interactive art. He is the recipient of numerous honors, including the Ars Electronica Golden Nika Award in 1996 for Global Interior Project. His career until 2015 is detailed in the augmented reality enhanced book Anarchive 6, Masaki Fujihata, which, if you have a chance to look at it, it's an amazing book that uses AR to create, you open up the pages and look at it through an iPad or through an iPhone, and you'll have these three-dimensional representations of exhibition spaces and films and so on that appear before you on the screen. It's really remarkable. In fall 2019, he was chosen as Regents Professor at UCLA. While practicing art, Fujihata has also spent 2 decades as a professor at Keio University and helped to establish the Graduate School of Film and New Media at the Tokyo University of the Arts. Karen Tei Yamashita is the author of 8 books, including books in all sorts of different genres, short stories, collections of short stories, memoirs, novels, all published by Coffee House Press. Her publications include Through the Arc of the Rainforest, Brazil Maru, Tropic of Orange, Circle K Cycles, Anime Wow, and I Hotel, which was a finalist for the National Book Award, the American Book Award, the Asian Pacific American Librarians Association Award, and the Association for Asian American Studies Book Award. Her most recent publication, Sansei and Sensibility, which is a fantastic title, is a collection of stories that, again, you should definitely check out. If you haven't, I mean, all of these books, incredible. I Hotel, mind-blowing. If you haven't read her anything by her yet, please do. You never know when you'll be hit by a truck. You want to make sure you get these books in before that happens. In 2021, Karen was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award for distinguished contribution to American letters from the National Book Foundation. She's also a contributor to the catalog for this exhibition, which you can see there. She wrote a really powerful story called Yuki's Rashomon, and she is a participant in the augmented reality installation that you can see outside between the museum, the main campus of the museum, and the historic building. I hope you will join me in welcoming Masaki Fujihata and Karen Tei Yamashita.
Oh, okay. How can we start? Maybe you should push the button. Yes, that's fine.
You're always the technology guy.
No, just conscious, you know. Don't want to have any mistake.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you to JANM and to UCLA and the Yanai initiative. And I want to also thank Michael Emmerich and David Leonard and Burles. Thank you, and your staff here at the JANM, but also at UCLA. And I'm really honored to be here with you today, Masaki-san.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. Not only participating for the catalog, but also I met you in the process of shooting, which had happened in December last year.
Yes.
So I met you in person at fitting. We met the Universal Costume Studio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That was very.
Yeah.
Thank you for, including me or inviting me. Thank you.
Yeah, just.
No. There I am.
Yeah, it's just a certification. So it's in the studio.
Yeah, I wish I could look more glamorous.
No.
Yeah. I thought maybe we're going to have a conversation here, and I wanted to talk about the process and the project and your work. But I also wanted just to get to know you, because I met you in December and then today.
Yes.
And yesterday. And I'm older than you.
Oh, that's not the program. That's just a number.
But I think I was born in 1951.
I see.
And I think that both you and I are part of what I think of as the long post-war.
Yes.
And in fact, I was at Waseda, and I turned 20 at Waseda at the
I see.
Kokusaibu there.
Wow, I didn't
And
know
I
that.
bet you were about 14. So can you tell me a little bit about, your
background?
family and where you,
Oh,
and what you were doing at age 14 when I turned 20?
age 20?
No,
Yeah,
I turned 20 and you were maybe 14. I think you're about,
me?
what year are you?
Sorry.
What year were you born? I think.
Oh, I understand.
Oh.
It was a year Japanese government started to say the post-war is over. 1956.
Was that the end of the occupation, or no? That was quite
After.
After. Yeah.
Of course after, but because of the Korean War,
Yes.
so the economically is revived.
Mm-hmm.
Then they said such a strong word.
So how do you feel about that, and talk about your family and
Okay. Of course, my mother and father had an experience of the war, and then after they met, then they married, and then both of their family had been living in Kobe area, but my parents is the first people who left Kansai area to Tokyo, because my father graduated to Tokyo University. Then they started their life in Tokyo. But the family moved to Saitama when I was in the elementary school. But then sorry. Then they moved back to Tokyo again, and Yokohama, and then Osaka. So I went to 4 different elementary schools. I think this experience made me なんていうんだっけ、very communicative person. So, each time when I moved to another elementary school, today we will have a newcomer. Then I have to say smile. Something. So I experienced this 3 times. So I think this type of experience affect psychologically very strong.
And then
yes. Yeah.
then how did you become the artist or come into media? How did that happen?
I think my father's intention is engineer, but he couldn't got the job to kind of engineering field. So from the beginning, he was not satisfied his position. But my mother's brothers are kind of artists. Like there's one photographer. Then she's good at art and other things. So it's interesting mixture. My father has a mind of engineering, and my father has an engineering mind, and my mother has a mind of creation. Then, yes. So at the age of high school, it's a long story. There is one interesting family lives near my house. She and his husband are teaching, how do you say, 塾ってなんて言うんですかね、cram school.
Yeah.
I went that cram school when I was in elementary school. But again, at the high school age, I visited her family quite frequently, almost every week on Friday or Saturday, and spend all night together with them, because she is a novelist. And her husband was an editor before in Iwanami publisher. So they are very intellectual people. They are very interested in what I'm doing. So I started make a 8 millimeter film at their house. So it's completely secret to my parents. Every day back to high school, I edit my 8 millimeter film at their home. Then after I back to my home, return to my home. Then at a certain point, I sent the completed film a 8 millimeter film festival. There was a special category for high school. I sent it, then I got the prize. Then suddenly, the organizer made a phone call to my home, of course, not to my grammar schools. Then my mother got a telephone. What? What are you talking? So this was, just 3 years, third grade of high school. Usually, people, studying very hard for entering examination for the university, but I didn't. I made a 8 millimeter film, and then I got the prize. So until then, they didn't accept me to take an exam to the art school or others. They insist me to go to Tokyo University or Waseda University or Keio University. But then after I got the prize, they changed the attitude completely different. Masaki, you can do. So I successed to convince them. So that's the kind of episode at the third grade of high school. So then but actually I spent 1 year for preparatory school, make a design and make a color composition for the entering examination for the art school. But it was very interesting experience after the high school. So it's a kind of suspended moment. I don't have any connection with the educational institution. Then I focused only about the art. Then I enter the art school. So I got the freedom.
I think
That's starting point.
Yeah, I think you and I are very lucky. We're very blessed. Yeah. Let's talk about the show.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the meaning of the title, BeHere, and also your invocation in the book that the past is always new. And also with Anne-Marie Duguay's her phrase that you have been playing with critical gaps. And I think as I went through with you yesterday as you introduced the show, there were two things that I thought you explained as maybe points of departure for your project. And the first would have been the eyes, that when you made them larger and you blew them up, you began to see the eyes as mirrors reflecting beyond, or at least the environment of the people who were photographed. And the second, you explained it yesterday after George Takei mentioned, the evacuation of folks here. You spoke about May 9th, 1942, as a moment in which every Japanese in Little Tokyo disappeared. And I thought that this disappearing was also another moment of departure for the project. There were these two things. So maybe we can talk about that. I mean, how you're thinking about first the reflection and the mirroring of the eyes.
So this happened while I'm browsing many photography on the archive, because after the pandemic, suddenly I need to back to Tokyo. Then only the resource I can reach is through the internet, and these institutions, National Archives and Library Congress, contain a lot of photographies which were shot by several of famous photographer, documentary photographer, so to say, in present, and all of these photographs are ordered from American government, and now every photograph is now public domain, and also surprisingly, most of the photographs were scanned from negatives. So originally, these photographs were used for promoting how American government relocate Japanese Americans in humanitarian way. So that's why we can find several smiles on the photography, and also government command to not to take military police and guns, and also watchtowers, and so on. So only they try to focus on to the people. Then we can find out many charming small children's, especially Dorothea Lange is a talented photographer. She is totally different from other photographer. Yeah, after I saw all of these photographs, 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, 4 times, so I can immediately differentiate from the other photographer. And then I loved very much because of the distance, how she calculates the distance between her and the subject. Then it's a kind of curiosity because it's a computer. It's easy to pinch out, make a close up, and then I can see the details. So in a way, I'm half of me is a technician. So what kind of lens she is using, or what kind of camera she is using. Some of the bokeh looked better than the other one, or something like that. But then, when I close up just the eye, so I was so much astonished. As you said, its eye is a mirror. Usually we forgot, because commercial photographer try to hide behind the camera. So they do not to be reflected anywhere. Some of the bottles and so on, they are going to hide the camera. It's a kind of policy or a habit, common sense.
Or surveillance. Yes.
Wow, you have very, very interesting sense of one side humor, but very conscious. Interesting, yeah, that's really true. Behind the camera, yes, they just through the hole see the object. Yeah.
No, what am I asking?
Yeah. You mean the reflection of eyes?
So in seeing the reflection of the photographer through in the eyes.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe the project began to be about the interrogation of the photographer, and that the photographer was actually there, and that the photographer was not invisible, but in fact involved in the event. So I was thinking about the iconic photo of Yuki Okinaga Hayakawa Llewellyn, and maybe, okay, and as it's reproduced in the room upstairs, I mean, we know the photograph, and I know that there were two photographers who made that photograph. One was Clem Albers, and the other was Russell Lee. One was taken with a flash, and the other was taken without flash.
Yeah.
And her face is so beautiful and very distinctive. But in the room, is that her? I mean, we see a 3D image of her in the room. And can you talk about, it doesn't look like her. Yeah. So then I thought, is she an actress? I mean, did you get a child who kind of looked like Yuki?
Yeah, it's a kind of a difficult point because the models you saw on the room is actually made by a 3D modeler. Mr. Fukuda worked for me, but he used the original image and then search the point where the camera is and project the image onto the 3D model. Then he started to sculpt the 3D model match to the projected image.
What do you mean sculpt? You mean sculpt digitally on her face?
Digitally. Yeah.
So almost like, is it like a Photoshop?
Photoshop in 3D. So the image, like using like a slide projector, you can project. If you take a photograph of this, then you can project the same image onto the same object. Yeah, but in this case, the beginning, the object is just a strange object, but we can push some area or extrude some area, change the shape of the object, which as a screen to receive the projected image. So he spent a long time to match the shape of the object with the image from the projector. Then I think it's a limit of his ability. So it looks like a Yuki, but India a bit different. So I'm sorry, but it's a limit of his technique.
So I don't know what I think about that.
Yeah, I think give me a second.
But yeah, in the room she doesn't look. She doesn't have the same. Yeah.
Atmosphere.
Yeah, there's something darker or maybe older about the face. But also, should we do that?
It was a challenge, these models were made last year in March and April. He spent 2 months.
Well, I mean, I don't want to. I'm not criticizing but yeah, I mean, what it looks like. I'm just saying, we could do this with many things. I mean, many people.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and in fact, I'm been imposed in this space. So.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I don't want to talk more about the models, but the concept for the room 4. So the one side is covered with a train. The purpose of the room is about to give visitors a chance to be a cameraman. Was the concept.
I see. I see. It's interesting that the camera that is given to visitors is this huge graphic, which is the camera that Dorothea Lange used. However, the photograph of Yuki, the little girl, is taken either by a Contax or
speedographic.
Speedgraphic.
Yeah, because I love Dorothea's photographs a lot. But she couldn't have a chance to come down to Los Angeles. I want to give Dorothea to be at
I see.
the old Santa Fe station.
I see.
If she was there, how she could make a photograph? That's my question. And this
Oh,
is
I
a
see, I
question
see,
for
I
the
see.
visitor.
Okay, so just for the audience, Dorothea Lange was, the photographs that you'll see in that first room are all taken of Japantown in San Francisco. And she did not come to Little Tokyo, and she would not have been in Little Tokyo to take any photographs. In fact, so this is the way in which she can participate, or we could participate with her technology. I see.
Yeah, and especially her style of shooting is different. Not only the size of the camera, but also there's a food and finder. So the way of shooting is like this. So like a contact. So we can eye contact directly face to face. Then
Yes.
make a photo. But how her camera graphics pose is different. So she doesn't have to look the subject directly through the lens. Then she can start to say, "Hey, Karen, look at me."
That's right.
Which is me, the lens or the photographer. So it's a different position.
It's a different
That's
relationship
very,
too.
yeah. This can make a very different relationship between the subject and the camera.
And the cameraman.
Yeah.
But in fact, Yuki's photos were taken through
Yeah, through the rangefinder.
the lens finder.
Yeah.
That's right. I see.
That was very new camera, released from 1936.
Yeah, very nude at the time.
Yeah.
What about the other provocation of May 9th in Little Tokyo,
Yeah.
where every Japanese in Little Tokyo and eventually in all of Los Angeles disappear?
Yeah.
And the recreation of an event right here in front of the of JANM in the plaza, in which they are again here in as ghosts, maybe.
Oh, sorry.
So
Yes.
all of these people who disappeared
Yes.
all in one day on May 9th,
Yeah.
you've brought them back.
Yeah. I didn't think much about that. Yeah. Really, I didn't think much about that.
You know
Disappear.
that they just, yeah.
Yeah.
But so what I thought about this in terms of like photography, but also the moment is a moment of theater, and so I think the photograph is a piece of theater. It's also a mask. So then when we take a photo, our faces are a kind of mask, and we also sometimes we pose to create that mask.
Yes.
So we smile, or we kind of know we want to show our best side, so maybe we pose.
Pretend.
Yeah, we pretend. But it's also a kind of, it's the past as soon as
Yes.
the photograph is taken, and it's a kind of death
Yes.
in a way.
Yeah.
And also a disappearance
Yes.
or a recurrence. And so I think that is what you mean by the past is always now.
Wow. Okay, interesting, very, very interesting question, but difficult to answer or connect my thought with that. You are trying to say the evacuation is a kind of a process of photo taking. They capture, then move it somewhere. It means print out. So the camp is a printed paper.
The camp is a printed paper.
Yeah, they capture by using buses and trains,
Yes.
and they move them to Manzana or some other camp. So they were printed out. And sorry.
So are
okay.
you replacing us?
I try to, so the photography is a medium, convey some object from there to another place. It's a medium. But also the train and buses is a commuter, so convey something from there to there. It's also medium. On this sense, the evacuation 1942 is a kind of transfer, both physically, but also image, and so on. So then your question about emptified. What does it mean, emptified little Tokyo? It's very, very interesting question, because content has had transferred. That means only the container left, like a dish. 面白いですね。
Or there was an erasure of an entire group of people.
Sorry?
There was an erasure.
Erasure, yes.
Erasure. So.
But it's impossible to erase wall. Of course, some 痕跡ってなんていうのかな。Some index left, don't you?
But I think what is interesting about the project is that you recreate or reenact
Yes.
an event that happened on May 4th,
Yeah.
May 9th,
Yes.
1942. But it's a reenactment like a drama or a spectacle.
Wow. I don't think this is a drama, but I found a lot of small stories inside. One of the reasons why I need to make a research on the archive on these archival institutions, because I really want to make small narratives. I think this is more suitable for in English. Tiny narratives will be gathered at the plaza, so people can browse and read out the small stories. For realizing this, I need to see more images, and I need to read several of recordings. Yeah.
What I was really impressed with when you showed us yesterday the different people who, like me, who participated in the event, you would say, "Oh, that's Jane," or "That's." You were able to name all of us, and in some ways, I think I appreciated that you had a personal attachment to each of our images that are out there now in the cloud, in this space, and I felt gratified by that. I have to say that you knew each person who you placed, and you knew where you placed them.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's going on there? I mean, I'm.
Yeah. Okay. So this is another aspect of the project, because after I was convinced with my creation of small narratives, but these narratives need to match with the actor. So actor is a physical human, and then I need to know the actor herself or himself. So it was a bit tight moment when we did the shooting in Los Angeles. We don't have much time to share the ideas and the moment. But in Tokyo, most of the actors are my friend or my friend's friend or my friend's family. So before start the shooting, I know them already. So then I can easily match my idea with these actors. Then at the studio, I can discuss with them. This is my idea. So maybe when they are waiting the buses, like yesterday, June told at the stage, most of the children didn't know what's happened. So the family, parents, protect not to tell to the children what will happen in the future. Then they enjoyed. So this is very, very strong idea I could accept. So that's why you can see several of children playing here. So this is also an idea when I discuss with my friend and his family. So please, enjoy this shooting, do something together. Then several of the action was なんていうんだっけ、interactively, instantly they started as as a common, playing in their home. So I was very satisfied. Some of the children did very, very naturally. I think this has happened also in 1940.
When I saw this photo of this mother and her children, and then the men who the cameramen who are, they're actually not doing photography, they're doing a film. But I thought that this picture is, for me, heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking to see her with her children and knowing what will happen next. And yet, this is one of the most.
Yeah.
It's painful, and I was also when I read your proposal for this project many months ago, when I was asked to think about it, I thought really about my own mother, and my mother, what she would have said if she were alive about your project.
Wow.
About this project, and I thought maybe my mother would find this painful, that we would reenact an event that was the saddest moment of her life. And I looked at this woman, I thought, this is the saddest moment of her life. How can we do this?
But I wanna comment with this photograph.
Right.
Because of course I was also thought that this lady is the mother of these small children, Michi Tanioka. But in real not, unfortunately.
No, she's not.
Because we can find out her at several different photography. But anyhow, another thing I need to tell with this picture, because this picture was shot by Russell Lee, and he is a professional documentarist. But there are many other photographers in the same place. Most of them are press cameraman. You can imagine easily, one press cameraman never include other press photographer. So San Francisco Chronicle doesn't take a Los Angeles Times cameraman. So it's a common sense, excluded. But this is very rare case, because Russell Lee is very conscious. He wanted to document not only the evacuation, but also how press cameraman act. So you can find out, I think, 5 or 6 photographs in his photograph. Find out other cameramans. So that's why we use for the cover.
Yes.
This is most symbolical photography.
Yeah, I think this is a good choice.
Yes.
is very affecting.
Yeah, and also on the right side, the guy looked a bit pessimistic face. But yeah, surely he came from the government.
Surely, yeah, he's a reporter.
Yeah, and my understanding is she is collaborate, find out the target, then bring them at a certain location, and then ask the press cameraman, please shot them. That's my
Oh, you
understanding.
think she's helping?
Yes,
Oh,
yes, because of the notebook. You know, normally Japanese American not doesn't have a notebook within this situation. Then I can show you. と this is the same lady. And also she has a notebook. It's strange because she's waving hand because you know the train is leaving now. So she didn't take the train. And also, yeah, this is the kind of research I have been doing. It's a bit crazy. Like a detective. どっちかな?
but you're saying that she was not interned?
No, especially in this time. どっちかな? You can see here. Here
there
she
is
is.
again.
Also, she carry notebook. So she is walking around. And also, I found her. ね.
All right, who is she?
Yeah, that's a big question. I love her in a way. こっちかな?
Huh.
Not this one. This one. Here you are. Maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, this is this lady.
Wow, we should write a story about her. All right.
I think I can write down another novel. Secret
Right.
of
Okay.
Mrs. something.
One of the things that I'm curious about in this production is that there are very few captions, or maybe there are none. I can't remember now. So,
You mean in the book or a gallery?
No, in the show.
Yeah, maybe I don't know, butそうだな. It's a kind of a strategy or a concept of the exhibition. So exhibition is a place for experience, not logically. So more visual experience is important. So
But yeah, because the first part of it is San Francisco.
yes.
But if you don't know that it's San Francisco, you might, I don't know what you would think. And no, okay, I get it. But I mean,
basically, these curated pictures. The purpose of these is to give a chance to have a similar experience what Masaki did. So, when you go into the archive, there are some sentences, but most of them are very boring. So it's just a location and they went to assembly center.
Yes.
Just it. So almost nothing. So I have to, look each picture like I did. Oh, who is moving what? Who is doing what?
But should there be someone who guides us?
Yeah, that's very, very important to discuss. So maybe kind of guided tour help them. But if the guide guide answer to the viewer before they spend the time to understand, so the meaning of the exhibition is completely upside down.
I see.
So the correct answer to your question, please buy the catalog. So the exhibition is very difficult to understand, then the people is going to buy the catalog.
Okay, so then, Masaki-san, we also think about this as an installation that is artistic and a work of art as well. Okay, I guess.
Yes, of course.
So in a sense, we're looking at photographers who thought that they were documentarians.
Yes.
And that they had the intention of documenting an event. And then we're also asking what they were doing there and what their responsibility was to that event. But in a sense, you've recreated it or reenacted it. And, all of us who participated as actors, we're all implicated in this event now. So what is?
So, one side is about the exhibition. Most of these photographs were not printed out. Of course, as you know, impounded. So nearly after the 2000, these institutions started to digitize the data from negatives. This is amazing, That's why, because there was no printed out. So this is the first time we see these photographs on the internet. So I do not have to go there now. Usually, we need to go there to see the printed paper. But after the 2000, we do not have to go to there, but we can see the direct transfer from negatives on my desktop. Then, especially the second room, using special light projection, so all the picture looked like a light box. That's my appreciation to Dorothea Lange. I really wanted to make these photographs as she wanted, because after she shot the film, she sent the film to Washington or San Francisco division or a relocation office. In some cases, she didn't see the result, I suppose. So of course, she didn't have a chance to print out. So this is the first time printed on the paper for the public.
I see. What about my question? I mean, if she's not the mother, where is the mother? And also, what about my question that this is the saddest moment of my mother's life, and I don't know that. I don't know how I feel about it being represented again or reenacted.
どうなのかな? I think I don't have a clear answer. Yeah, because I'm very much good at new media. And I'm very curious about to use augmented reality and volumetric capture in a new way and of course in a correct way, because the media is a kind of tool to memorize or externalize our memory. So the memory is always connected with history. So when we think about media, how we tackle with the media, this is the important question about memory and the history. So in this case, I was very lucky. I could reach to this beautiful photograph, then transform into a new format. So of course, it's a question. Maybe in the future we can make actual 3D model from the photograph automatically, but now it's impossible. Then there's a two-way to recreate. One is about one of Yuki artistic way to recreate the 3D model from the photography. Of course, that was made by hand. But another way is about to invite the actors into the studio. So then I choose this way to recreate this crowd scene. Yeah, I know your question.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
No, it's not an easy. I don't know what the answer is either, and I guess that's why we have a conversation.
But after I create the application for the Plaza and play with the iPad, it is so astonishing. I cannot answer the real reason, but I can suppose you can feel you are inside the scene. This might be very important. This might be very different from the photography. When we see the photography, it's always, there's a distance.
Yeah, outside.
And the figure is a small size. But in this case, all the figure is exact same size of ours. I think that's one of the point and very new and also very difficult to understand.
Well, one thing I thought about it when we were out there yesterday, that we were playing around.
Mhm.
It's play.
Yeah.
And it's actually fun.
Yes.
But we are also viewing an event that was not fun. So I felt a little confused.
Yes, that's really true. That's really true. That's one of the dangerous point for showing these pieces. For example, we are discussing how can we transfer this artistic piece to Tokyo. So the world context is very, very different. So in this case, the context already embedded the location.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
the location is really key.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that I can take my iPad and I can take it to Santa Cruz where I live or my house, or my children can take it across on a road trip to across the country. They could take it to Disneyland and they could put me in Disneyland, or maybe somebody can take me to a bar. And I know that I look like an old lady. I don't know why would take an old lady to the bar, but I don't think that anybody cares about taking me or my in particular my image anywhere. But then, is that appropriate? And I guess you can't control that.
No, it's impossible in a way. That's a kind of common situation. We were surrounded by the technology. So it's a deal. Actually, the application we already put on the App Store has contained two different type of AR application. One can run only this location. This is fine. But the other application can run anywhere. even in your room or on the street. But the only one figure, one model appear in front of you, not the crowd like here.
I see.
And also these model randomly came out. You cannot control what model will appear.
Oh, okay.
So if someone really want to put your figure in Disneyland, it's quite tired, to get you, and also at the exact location. So I hope they don't they abandon in the middle of the process of making, but also it's a moral, I believe someone who download this application already have some moral or common sense way to use these type of application. I hope.
I think
This,
Time passing.
I think this is actually a really good moment. Talking about audiences engaging with the
Okay.
exhibit, with the app. It seems like a wonderful transition to questions from the audience. But first of all, thank you both for a really stimulating conversation. We're taking questions via text, or if you're here in person, would like to just raise your hand and ask a question, that would be great too. While we're waiting for questions to start coming in, actually, does anybody want to start? I don't see any hands up yet, so maybe I will just begin with a question for me. I was just curious, Karen, you started raising a lot of really interesting questions about kind of the ethics. Also touched on, the conversation that the two of you had about that photograph that's on the catalog cover.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of natural to look at that and think, oh, here's the mother. And then to realize it's not. To me, it seems like actually that's one of the points of this exhibit is that, or I don't know, one of the effects is to help you learn to see photographs in a different way, to look differently. And I was just curious to hear, Karen, about your, having been involved in the creation of this augmented reality installation, and having thought a lot about photography, what you took away, either, I don't know if took away from the exhibit is the right way to put it, or what you saw as the effect of the exhibit, or just sort of more questions that it raised for you. If you could talk a little bit about that, I'd love to hear some more. As my question.
Well, it began because, Michael, you asked me to write something creative about the project, and then I had to do similar kind of study that Masaki-san did, and I did not know, the different. I did not know there were two photographs of Yuki Okinaga, for example, and so I slowly learned that. And I learned about the process, the kinds of cameras, and that investigation became really fascinating to me. So I learned so much from having to take a look at this. And then I wanted to know how this technology is being transformed, and also what the ethics of this transformation is going to be and how we will use it. And I also thought that this is the future of the museum. In other words, the museum is no longer going to be site-specific. That in fact, our museum is in part in the cloud. And I'm also a little scared because Masaki-san, you put me in a green room and you made a volumetric digital image of me, and that can be saved eternally, so that when I'm dead, I suppose my grandchildren can come and still bring me up, and that's sweet, but it's a little scary. And oh no, you're gonna show this? Okay, go ahead, it's funny.
I think it's a lifetime. So you will see, I couldn't use this sequence. So
he was
he's,
making me open up.
yeah, so I asked to her,
This is me acting.
yeah, she's acting. I just command to her about to start to open the handbag.
And then I took out my iPhone.
So it's not possible to use in the plaza. So cute. And actually, okay, I can close up also. Oops. Then we can see the studio here. Inside the iPhone, we can see the green studio. Yeah, you can see some lights here. It's a bit difficult to see, but anyhow, so the image inside the iPhone is completely different. Thank you. This is very, very important material to me for the next project.
We have a question from Ruth Shu. Thanks for this thought-provoking conversation. It's wonderful. Can both conversationalists discuss the extent to which this recreation, design, carrying it out, participants in the recreation, is an afterlife, an existence after death, a later period in one's life, a period of continued or renewed use? What are some meanings of this exhibit as afterlife for memory, writing of history, family stories, etc.? This kind of echoes your comment that this will be something that your descendants go back and look at.
I wish I were wearing better clothing. I was like, oh, anyway. Okay, so you answer that.
The exhibit, so what are some of the meanings of this exhibit as an afterlife for memory, writing of history, family stories? So Masaki, the title of your essay is "The Past is Always New." But here thinking about afterlives.
What afterlife do you mean?
Afterlife.
死んだ後.
Actually, I mean, the question of what an afterlife is a really interesting question. I mean, like, is it one afterlife or two afterlives or multiple? There are lots of different ways to think about afterlives, first of all. Whether there's only one or a cycle.
難しいですね. What I don't know whether this story can match with this question or not, but actually, there is one note I have at the remarks yesterday's reception, but I didn't use that one. It's about the question about knowing. So question about knowing starts from to aware the differences. Like a water, for example, last night I left the water on the glass, and the next morning, if I found that water is less than the yesterday night, oh, what happened? So this is the starting point of knowing. Then the scientists start to make a hypothesis. Maybe the ghost take it out, or angel. I think this was a 18th century science, pseudoscience. But now we know it's a temperature and the air evaporated. This is our answer now. So it's a science. But this is a very important starting point about knowing. But if we cannot remember how much water was left in the yesterday night, we don't know this difference. So that means we have to have a memory. But now recently I understand I have a very, very strong memory for visuals. And also I have another music composer. He has very strong memory for the sound and music. So I think these are the kind of characteristics for those kind of people, artists, writer, science. Every the different people has a different type of memory. Then the museum is very important place to compete something, the reality and the object. For example, like a painting. Painting is a physical object. That's a pigment. It's just a pigment, but we will see, it's a beautiful Mount Fuji, but it's just a pigment. So pigment is now transferred to our image inside the brain. Then we started to compare this image and another image, memorize the memory, memorize the Mount Fuji. So there is a competition. Then they started, wow, what the difference. So I think this is a very important understanding of the moment of competition. So the museum is a place about the competition between the object and the memorized image. So the exhibition over there, you saw several things, and then after they saw, they started to compete the memory they already have, then start to make a story. Like you said, if your mother saw this exhibition, so how she start to compare her actual life and photographed image. So I think then she start to make her own story, and then this story is the kind of realistic, generate reality, a kind of reality. Sorry, my English is also good enough.
But it's no longer. But it's no longer.
But
So, for example,
yes,
the photograph of Yuki, that's what we remember.
that's what.
It's almost the photograph of Yuki Okinaga, a little girl. That's what we remember. The photograph becomes a reality rather than the actual event. Is that what you mean?
So I understand. I made a confusion because I used an example about Mount Fuji. Okay, the knowing need the power of remembering, and also the museum is an important place to compete. I think in a way people say a kind of alternative reality, a kind of reality which was made by someone. Then we start to compare the difference from mine and that one. So this is a kind of artistic work. That was my challenge, to generate a kind of reality based on new technology. Then I wanted to give the viewer to use that to compare with their memory. It makes sense?
I think so. So it's a way in which those of us who come to the museum also engage in our own memories and make, in fact, we bring it alive, I guess.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying, because of our interaction with the objects that are, within the museum, but also our own memory and our interaction with the materials,
Yeah.
so that it doesn't die.
I hope so. だからなんて言えばいいのかな。
It sounds to me, just as a kind of maybe expansion on what you were saying, Masaki, I think it sounds to me like you're pointing out that for you the difference between the photograph and not the thing that was captured in the photograph, but the thing that wasn't captured in the photograph, the scene that became the seed of the photograph or something. The difference there is what you're interested in. So that it's, we look at photographs and we think this is a representation of something. The thing is in this photograph. And you're saying, no, the thing isn't in the photograph. If we look in a different way at a whole bunch of photographs, we can begin to understand what was there when the photograph was created. When we have the augmented reality installation, you look at it and it's not, to draw on this notion of the afterlife, it's not the same thing that's continuing, it's being represented to us, but rather the absence kind of the event is being, or the past presence of the event is being called to mind by the augmented reality installation. And the difference, the fact, so you look at these people and you say, not that they're representations of people who were here, but that they're gesturing to the fact that there were people here, but they're not here now. Maybe that, I think, Karen, maybe this also connects to your observation about the fact that, Yukiko doesn't look like Yukiko in the film. There's a gap there, and that maybe it's, yes, a technological limitation, but also that's part of the kind of experience and part of the point.
Yeah, そうかそうか。だから、yes, sometimes interesting, like example of computer modeled Yuki. So in a way, it's quite difficult. But on the other hand, if the model inside the computer is exactly same to Yuki, that doesn't make sense. So the gap is important.
The gap, I think so.
Also at the plaza, people start to think about, this is a recreation of the moment people left Los Angeles to Manzana. But in there, all of these were people still alive. So it's a gap, it's a fake.
It's fake.
But maybe there is some important point, artistic point. It transfer this gap, start to make your imagination energized. I hope.
Okay, any questions in the house? I don't see any hand. Oh, is there a hand? Oh, yes, please.
Hello. My name is Alejo Kopian. I'm an artist working with virtual reality. I would like to ask both of you to answer my question. Both of you have devoted a lot of thought to the philosophy behind volumetric historical preservation. Can you elaborate on how you think this technology will shape the future of museums?
Just in case there are people at home who couldn't hear that because it was not mic'd, as people who've thought a lot about volumetric preservation of history, how do you think this technology could shape the future of the museum?
By my experience, like archive in the Library of Congress and others, we can see the materials, but the material itself cannot tell any story. So, I really want to share my experience with you. So after I browse a lot of photography, then I construct a story. Then I made a curation. So this process is quite critical. Even in JANM, at the beginning of this project, they couldn't understand artistic way of creation. So as we told, it's a fake, it's a fiction. But they said that's JANM is a museum. Museum need to keep the fact. So it's another question. So what is the fact? So I think the experience is the base for the fact. But maybe in the future, just 10 years or 15 years later, we don't find out anyone who experienced the internment camp. So only the materials left. So then I don't believe the people can construct their own story from those raw materials. I think someone needs to compile and create a fiction. So I believe there is no difference between fiction and fact. I don't know what is my true story. I can tell a fake story of my life. So I didn't change my elementary school 4 times. Do you believe? Just so it's interesting. I don't know what's the fact and truth.
Well, to speak after that, I'm a writer of fiction, and but I've always based my writing in historic events, and I've worked very hard to know what those events were and what happened, and so I don't want to veer in my fiction far from the historic fact, and I believe that the history is important and that the facts have to be there because someone or we have to be accountable, and that facts make us, or the history makes us accountable. And that's our responsibility. At the same time, I believe that fiction has a way of telling stories which give truth and also produce a truth that hover over the art or the text or your installation that give people an idea, their own ideas. They give them the freedom to think and to make decisions for themselves and to understand. And also, I think that it helps them to see the world in another way so that they can change. What all of this has to do for the museum, I'm not sure, but I believe that these technologies are here to stay and that the museum will have a responsibility for them in their use. Because every time we go to a museum, there's some new thing that the museum is asked to do, whether it's to archive materials or to do something digitally or to engage with QR codes. I mean, I can't stand these QR codes on the tables. I hate them. But I mean, I know that I have to have a phone now, and now I know that all of us have to have phones, and we all have to have phones of a certain, quality, because my phone is too stupid to be used for this exhibition. So it's here to stay, and I don't know, but I think that this is a question for those people who are working in the museum.
There are actually more questions that have been coming in, but it seems to me that actually just leaving people with questions is one of the points of the exhibit, and perhaps one of the points of this conversation. So perhaps you could all join me in giving a very warm round of applause to Karen, Tei Yamashita, and Masaki Fujihata. Thank you both for a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Masaki-san.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
I'm so pleased to meet you.
Yeah, I should say, because when I read your essay for the catalog, I was astonished. Oh, perhaps I wrote this text. Who is she?
We had a mind meld.
Yeah, very, very strange feeling. So I couldn't write that way, but I did similar, impression in the process of research.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again. Thank you to everyone who is here in person. I do want to encourage you to go visit the exhibition if you haven't already, as well as you can borrow an iPad and experience it out on the plaza as well, and both of those are available over on the pavilion side until 5 p.m. You can also purchase, we have a few more copies of the catalog in the store, and then we also have a QR code that you can scan to be put on the wait list to be informed when more come in. If we have sold out on the other side, you can also purchase some of Karen's books in the museum store on the pavilion side as well. So we hope you enjoy the exhibition and come back again. And thank you so much for being here today.